Sí, muy buenas tardes. Vamos a dar inicio a la sesión.
Good afternoon. We're going to start with section 2 of this panel, Analysis and Processing, Geospatial Analysis and Processing. I am going to talk about, introduce our speakers. First of all, we have Luis Arijón Álvarez. He is an architect, and he is going to give a presentation that is about zoning of territory and value maps, talking about the cadastre of Spain. He has a master in public management, and he's an architect from the University of Santiago de Compostela. And he, in the last few years, he is a deputy. He has been a deputy assistant of Director General of Valuation and Inspection, Deputy Directorate General of Valuation and Inspection, and Director General of Cadastre. He is also Cadastre Territory Manager. He was Cadastre Territory Manager in Avila. And he has published several articles in important magazines of architecture. And I am also going to introduce to you Mr. Carlos Salmán González, and he is going to talk about geographic information systems for governability processes. He is director of CIGMA, which is a well-known company. So, to give them more time, I am going to give the floor to architect Arijón. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. It is a great pleasure to be here. I didn't know that we were going to have so many people. And as the moderator said, the idea of my presentation is to talk about the cadastre in Spain. And then I am going to specifically talk about the topic.
En la presentación, bueno, eso que estamos viendo es España. Digamos que
what we're seeing here is Spain. So Spain's cadastre is a registry that is a dependency of the Economic Ministry and Public Administration Ministry. We have been working on this for several years, and we basically started in the times of Charles III. But the current law is from 2004 regarding the types of real estate. We have 3 types: the urban ones, the rustical ones, and the special characteristics real estate, BICE in Spanish. And we evaluate them, and it's, for example, airports, nuclear plants, docks, engineering plants, aeolic plants, wind plants, etc. This is Spain's territory, and the cadastre is part of the government of the country, except for 2 territories, the Basque territory, which is this part, and they have their own cadastre. And we manage 7,594 municipalities. And within the cadastre, we have in the urban area 13.5 million urban parcels, 32 million buildings, which 36.7 million of real estate. So it is a territory of 1 million hectares. And in the rural area, we're talking about 40 million rural parcels, 50.5 million sub-parcels, for a total of 42 million real estate in a territory of 46 million hectares. So these are the big numbers that represent Spain's cadastre. Let's talk about its purpose. We already mentioned that there are urban and rustical real estate, but we need to describe it. So the cadastre includes the physical characteristics, the economic characteristics, and the legal characteristics. And of course, we talk about localization. They are located in the territory. And this is in uppercase because we know this information. We just need to locate them on the map, but we also need to evaluate them. The cadastre is the identifying code at the mapping level of all of the real estate in the territory. It is the way that we know where they are. And this is a code that is used for all kinds of commercial transactions and for bills, for example, the power bill and the water bill. And we and any taxing administration know where they are. What is their surface? What do they do with it? And I am not going to see all of this information in the map, but I am going to link all of this information and I am going to know it. In the rural area, we also have crops and their use. We know all kinds, what crops we have, how they are used, and we improve the quality. Also, we have the quality of constructions, if it's good, if it's bad, how old it is, its conservation state, and everything. All of this information is really important in a cadastre. The geographical representation is necessary. We need to know where they are, both for me as a manager of the cadastre, as well as for any other party or taxpayer to know where this is. And of course, we have the protected information, that is the cadastral value and the cadastral literal. You know your own, but you don't know this information of other people, and this is protected by the law. Now we're going to go to the geographical representation level. This is an image of Spain. This is a photography of Spain. This is the entire territory. We have flown over the entire territory and taken a photography of this. The quality of the image, we don't talk about scales anymore. This technology has improved, and now we talk about pixels. In the urban area, we're working on a resolution of 10 centimeters, which is pretty accurate. That means that between one image and another image, there is a covering of 10 centimeters. So that means that it includes a lot of information. And in a city like Madrid or Barcelona, we go down to a resolution of 25 centimeters of pixels. This is enough because you can actually see the territory. And the 50 centimeters to the 25 centimeters is the amount of pixels that we use for the cities. In other territories that have lots of mountains and things like that, maybe we don't have high mountains as you do here in Mexico, but the ground asks for a larger resolution. That is why we use more pixels. If I zoom in, this would be the cadastral cartography of Madrid. Of course, we got rid of the information so we could just see it, and this is just the urban area. If I zoom it in even more, and I want to go to Salamanca district, for example, this would be the image with its borders. And this is an ortho picture of 10 centimeters of pixel. Of course, this is not zoomed in, but we are going to go to a lower level. We are going down in this scale. This resolution of 10 centimeters would be equal to a cartography of 1 to 1,000. So we have the 7,594 represented in 1 to 1,000 scale. And maybe other cities like Toledo, for example, due to the complexity of their streets and everything, we do 1 to 500. Now, I jumped from the image to the cartography. You probably don't notice it there is no difference between one thing and the other. But I am going to zoom in, and I am going to go to a specific zone. This is a cartography and orthophoto. There is no difference. Maybe I'm cheating a little bit because this is Madrid's downtown, and it is really easy to locate everything in that area. But if I zoom in even more, I get to this level, and I am working on a 1 to 1,000 scale. And this information with cartography is really good. But I am going to put the cadastral parcel, and what do I see? Well, there are certain differences, and this cartography, as you can see, is represented from the cadastral reference code that identifies it's one of the lots, as well as the map. So I have this information, and I actually have a 3D cadastre, and we don't publish it because maybe it's not useful for people. It is useful just for studies, and maybe we can use it internally. And what happens inside of each one of the lots? And I can limit the properties. Maybe I can see that there is a bank, a farm, a drugstore, and I have all of the information. Right now, we're working with graphic information. Afterwards, I'm going to compare this information to see if it is going to coincide. I am talking about the built surface. I don't care about the interior part of it, but I am going to use this information to create the valuation. So I have the localization, the surface, the graphic area, the use, the age, and the construction quality. I also will have the digital picture of all of the real estate in Spain. We don't have all of the pictures in a digital format. We have them printed out, but we are working on this. Since 1970, we have been taking photographs of entire Spain. Well, you can say that you have street views. Street views are not updated. Yes, I do update it. That is why I need that this picture is the last one taken. And then I have a scheme, a cadastral scheme. So anybody could use this information to describe their own real estate property, the surface, the localization, cadastral reference, the street, and the photography if it were necessary. Well, what happens in the rural area? Well, historically, we can say that the cadastre started first in the rural areas and in the urban areas. Well, the property tax, that was it used to be called the rural tax. These are examples of rural cartographies from 900, 910. Back then, the cadastre was within the Geographic and Cadastral Institute, but it's not called like that anymore. So we have different examples of how it has been evolving. We started using information provided by the United States. So we started having a more accurate type of information. What is the main purpose of the cadastre? Of course, is to value. I have all of this information, but I want to have a value that helps me to manage the cadastre itself at the municipality level, and of course, the property tax. And of course, the importance of locating it, identifying it, and of course, having an inventory of all of the real estate property with the definition of the value that I am going to estimate, and I am going to say as a cadastral body what it is. That is to say, I am going to jump from a real world with images, any image, whatever we have. I am going to use everything we have. And then I'm going to go to a graphic type of information and then alphanumeric information that is going to allow me to process everything. And then at the end, I'm going to get a value that is going to help me. That is why I'm going to explain what is zoning. What do I want to get from this? What are the needs? What is a value map? Well, first of all, historically, the cadastre has to do with the value. But in 2005, we decided that we need to change the system, and now we're changing the system. So we created this concept called value zone. So I define a property value, if it's a commercial value, a home value, or any value. So the entire map for Spain within a value hierarchy. So the entire Spanish territory has 60 value levels, and we update them every year. This would be the last one, which corresponds to 2013. And we need to be efficient with the cadastre, so that is why I analyze the territory, then I do a socioeconomic and property analysis, the market study, I get the transactions offered and the mortgage information, and the cadastre gets all of this information, and we process all of this information in the cadastre. This is on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we also have national coordination. So we coordinate all of the values of the territory. It's not the same having a property in Madrid, Barcelona, in the north, or in the south. So we have to coordinate this. And then we create a cadastral law. The current one is the 2004 law, which has its technical rules from 1993. The first cadastral law is from 1900. We have had several different types of laws, but this is the current one. Maybe we need to change it. Probably, yes, because things change and improve. And also because I am going to define a value structure of the territory in order to get a continuous map of this value of the ground. And at the end, I am going to get what we have called a reference value, not a cadastral value, a value that is going to represent the commercial value of the property. This would be the story. This is a map of Madrid in 1966. We already had zones back then. This would be coordination. I am classifying the entire territory, the 7,000 municipalities within their territories. And Madrid is the darkest color is Madrid, the highest value, and then the lightest color is the cheapest value. The procedure is, what do? I take the orthophoto, and I analyze, for example, communication lines, malls. I do thematic maps based on buildings, topology, and everything. And even if I had previous values, I analyze them and I see what's going on. And then I define zones in the territory based on their function. And in these zones, I add something important, that is all of the transaction values. All of those dots that you see on that map are all of the transactions in Spain from 2007 to 2012 in dwelling housing, and this is more than 1 million. But that is the cadastral reference code allows me to see this information. After we do this, this is what we used to have. This is the example of a municipality before we valued it per zones, by street, and how it looked like after we did the zoning. The values changed. We have reduced work. The advantage of having a geographical information system actually helped. And this is what we're doing everywhere, in Madrid, in Barcelona, La Coruña, Valencia, Malaga, and everywhere. We're going to see a little bit the example of Madrid. The last revaluation was 2012, and we first did a territorial map of the entire province of Madrid, and then we did a zone map. So you can see the values of Madrid in 2001 were like 4 to 5 books this big. Now we have just one page that includes the 43 defined values by zone in Madrid. With this information, I have reduced the amount of work and, of course, make the work of technicians easier. We have the different districts, the center, downtown registry, Salamanca, etc. So this study was really complete. And if we did it in Madrid, why not do it in Barcelona as well? In La Coruña, as we said before, this is a zoom in. So all you see in that map is the national hierarchy that we have defined based on the cadastral information. And since I saw that it worked, I am going to show you because you're going to say, how do I see this? Well, I can see it directly on the internet. It is really easy to access to this information. You go to this webpage, it's free, and anybody can have access to this information, the products, cadastral services, etc. But we can also analyze and have access. If any one of you wanted to come up here and get information of a property in real time, for example, I don't know if anybody is interested. If you want to come and check the information, the non-protected physical data, if anybody wants to do this, we can do it now. No? Okay. Then I'm going to do it myself. Of course, any owner could get access to his protected information. I am going to have access to the general database of the cadastre in Madrid. I did not prepare this, just in case. I am going to go to Madrid, Municipality Madrid. I can have access based on the cadastral reference or the street. I have a street locator, the name, the number, which is 272, and in real time we have access to the cadastral cartography. This is the building where the general director and I work. This is all of the information. And what can I do here? Well, I can see the ortho picture, so I can click on it. It allows us to see the ortho picture and see what there is. On top of that, I can ask, well, how much is this? And this is a lot of information, but I want to know how much this costs, so I can see the values of Madrid as a whole. Let's hope it works. Let's make it a little bigger so we can see it. So this is the value map of Madrid, the municipality of Madrid. But I was in my office, and I want to see the information of my office. I want to see the information. Well, I am not the owner. I cannot see the value, but I can have access to the information. This would be the cadastral reference. I am going to locate its physical data. So this is the description of the place. It's an urban property, the surface, and these are the different types of uses of all of the stories. It has 12 stories and surface. So anybody can have access to this information. The advantage of this webpage that started working a year ago is that I can download as a free user the entire cartography of Spain for free. We started doing this a year ago. Before, we had to pay for this. Now, this information is for free. In 1 year, there have been 460,000 downloads. This is 65 to 70 million euros to companies. Actually, we have a mobile application for this. I am not going to talk about the rural zones, but it's something similar. And since this morning, Vanessa Lawrence talked about locating the Mexican embassy in London, I want to locate the Mexican embassy in Madrid. Why not? I am going to show off now. Why not? This is a geographical information system, and all of the technicians work with this. But I am going to get even more information than they do. This is the embassy, this is the Congress, and first of all, I'm going to take a look at the photograph. This is the facade, and you can see the flag here, and this is the croquis. You can see the basement, the first story, the second story, all of the information. I could actually take a look at all of the information, all of the tax information, and I have the description. I don't have all of the information, but this is a little bit of what we have and what we're working on. And since I already showed you everything, I am going to close up with 2 more slides, and this is it. This is a cloud tax where we can see all of the information that we have in the cadastre. Who we are, where we come from, and where we're going to. And reuse, of course. Interoperability, of course, it's important too. Well, I hope that this presentation was interesting to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now I open the floor to Carlos. Can you hear me like that? 42 years ago, I started working in an institution called Centenal, and 37 years ago, I made a speech called the Technology at Tenal to establish information systems for development. And I thought back then that we were going to be successful, so I learned this poem from Martin Fierro that said, beware. To the attention, I ask silence, and silence ask attention. I cannot apply the message here because my metaphor is not a good one. Maps may not be useful, information may not be useful, technology may not be useful, and news are bad, actually. This country is debating amongst drought and flooding, and we cannot blame climate change and all of that stuff because this country doesn't need money, reforms. This country needs governability or governance, and my idea here is the story of my life. 42 years ago, I came to Mexico. I am a graduate from MIT in Tamaulipas, the Madero Institute of Technology at Tamaulipas. And they taught me that in order to become an engineer, many people did not do that. I was desperate. I am desperate. You can see that I am even more desperate. I'm ashamed and hurt. I am hurt because 42 years ago we were doing mappings just for urban development. I would say, do not place a city here because flooding will be a problem, and we did not pay attention to the maps, and we destroyed many of these processes, and because of that, on September, many people died, and people who are the most vulnerable are the ones that die. As a Mexican, I'm ashamed and I am hurt. First of all, I want to dedicate this presentation to 2 great colleagues from Centenal, Francisco Tataki and Francisco Hansen. If you are not confused, that means that you're not clearly thinking, and the lack of governance is the biggest problem in Mexico. we cannot blame anyone. We should feel ashamed, and this is my case. I feel deeply ashamed. We have done so much in the places where I have worked, and quickly let me tell you, in these places, what has happened. And of course, I feel that we have failed because if I want to simplify, well, there are many things, good things that we have done, but these pictures are from last month. I saved my family with my hands. We'll see that quickly because we don't want you to be depressed. 45 years after the 2nd of October 1968, these children is sold by 40,000 pesos, and children are the most affected, of course. We are not proud of all this news. We should ask ourselves, this is something that Eric from us a long time ago. Is it valid to have or to build a sick society in order to have a healthy economy? And actually we've done that. We have allowed the World Bank and the IMF to sell us a project where they support the soda manufacturing, TV, and telephone companies. If you borrow money, you have to pay 200 times what you are borrowing. Not even Chapo, the drug trafficker, earns that much money. You will never have enough money to pay them back. The development of a country, that was the introduction of my speech 35 years ago, can never be the result of a decree from any authority. It should be the shape up of the vocation of the vision of a society. But we need to know reality very well, and we need to use solidarity that comes from that knowledge. Of course, human solidarity is out of trend today. We say today, if you don't cheat, you will not make any progress. And it doesn't matter who educated you. I mean, you need to improve yourself. You need to cheat to be better. But it has never been that way. In 1961, Juan de Puig de la Parra said that we needed to have an inventory of our resources because we were not able to make any roads or paths or anything without it. That is him. From 61 to 68, he was working, and on June, he was going to work in Centenal, but the American ambassador said, why do you do that? Because everything is going to be done with satellite images. Today, we're not able to do what Puig proposed, but they stopped their work until engineers demonstrated that you could not do curves of 5 or 10 meters. Centenal was created on October 2nd, 1968. I actually joined the institute because I wanted to write my thesis, and actually in my head I was only thinking of women, but well, of course, my vision today with the eagle view and the knowledge of the snake. I mean, I heard this expression many times, and then after that I said, okay, I don't want to be an engineer anymore, but I still want to flirt with girls. But this was the inventory: topography, geology, use of the land, use of the soil, etc. And so, sorry, I have to speak so quickly. I only have 20 minutes to speak about my 42 years experience, so you can imagine I have to skip so many things. Okay, so in 74, my boss could not stand me anymore, so they sent me to Holland. And when I was telling my colleagues in Holland about this scheme, they laughed and they said, well, this is not possible. You're homesick and you want to brag about this. And I said, no, I brought some maps with me. But the people from Holland, they said, well, maybe we can do something, but this is very structured. We need the cadastre for that. So when I went back, I asked to go to the field. I went to Zacatecas, and actually Puig saw maps as a type of radiography or X-ray. And so they said, well, here there is erosion, here there is farming, here, well, there are goats here, maybe this soil is good for cactus, and over here not even cactus can grow here. Only snakes can drag themselves over there. So I grew up in Tabasco, and when there is no money on the Gulf of Mexico, you eat chicken or fish. But the misery here, they were feeding children with tea, and well, if you do that, their brain is never going to develop. So I felt like I wanted to conduct a second revolution. So I went back to my boss and I said, I gave them the information and I said, you know, Che Guevara died for poor people. You have to give your life for them. And so this is my speech in 77, Technology and Material to Establish Information Systems for Development. What did we want to do back then? To do the mapping, give them to the states so they could do the cadastre and link it to the public registry, and then so that everyone would be able to use that. I was happy and naive at that time. People many times do not want to use information because information is just like a lamp, and people just want to be in the dark for different purposes, of course. So what did we want back then? What did Puig was looking for in 77? That was a religion almost for us. I was working in the topography. Hansen was supervising our maps or cartography. If they were not good, they made us do it again, but they were good. The intelligent use of the natural resources, water, vegetation, soil, oil, etc. The rationalized use of the urban growth to increase the solidarity levels, to increase the well-being of the population. We actually conducted the first revolution in the 20th century. There were almost over 1 million dead people, and to overcome the limits, and actually we wanted to transform a naive society in a more aware or conscious society, and it's not enough to have a healthy economy if the price to pay is to have a sick society. Nevertheless, people from the World Bank and the IMF said, why are we doing all these things? We need to do a downsizing. How much a map costs? 20,000 pesos, 10,000 pesos. Why do you sell it at 10 pesos? This is not a business. And we said, well, no, this is not to make business. This is the X-ray of our country. And they said downsizing. So I went to one of the sources and then I said, oh, downsizing is like losing weight. Okay, let's do an experiment with you. Let's do some downsizes with you. And we're going to pluck your eyes out. And we're going to sell them at 5 cents. And he said, you are so ridiculous. And I said, no, you are so rude and gross. And geological mapping, the use of the soil, the potential use, etc. Well, do a downsizing for that. I mean, that tendency of the IMF and the World Bank to do that was replicated all over the world, and they dismantled many things. It doesn't matter if this is a private sector or public sector company. A country doesn't care about whether the sector is private or public. They want efficiency. And nevertheless, the global trend, this so aggressive trend of the 20th century to appropriate the resources means that the country or the people would not have the inventory of their resources. I was not going to be private, but I was going to be deprived of the initiative. And so I told my wife, stop me, please. She's an architect. She was giving classes. And so we created CIGMA, this new company. Actually, we wanted to give real form to the material, diffuse material, which is one of the hardest things to do. These are the children of CIGMA, actually, this company. So as you see, we were not only busy doing maps. So what is this? It's information for the development. What do we want? Employment. We don't want subsidies. We want our dignity back. We want employment. Don't cheat on us. I remember that when I was 10, I was raised, I was educated. The governor and the president did not get there just to fill their pockets. Actually, this is demagogy, this is stupidity, this is hypocrisy. We do not need politicians when there is a flood. Whoever breach solidarity would find solutions. And so we wanted employment for food, for health, for education, for dwellings, etc. But if you don't have an inventory of your natural resources, you won't be able to do that. Because if you don't know what you are rich of, then you can be stealing all of the things that you have, just like California and Nuevo Mexico or New Mexico. We know that we have so many resources. If you take the oil and then you kill shrimp, etc. So now imagine, add up all the things that you're losing and all the property, the values, and the infrastructure. I mean, the land, who is the owner of the land? Because we had our cadasters when I was in Nezahualcóyotl. There, I mean, at the time of Nezahualcóyotl, there was the management and order of the land. But then after the independence, there was a revolution. And then we killed each other happily. And then deputies said, first of all, we need to measure the land, see if there's water, and then give it to the peasants. But actually, we gave peasants land as we could, as better we could, and we said from that hill to the next hill. But actually, a hill cannot be a vertex or matrix, and people are still killing each other for land. So we need a cadastre from the cities, from the rural areas, etc., the federal cadastre by population, by cities, etc. I mean, this is 31 years old. Safety, unsafety has nothing to do with what it is today. Concentration of wealth, of services, etc. I'm going to show you a video quickly. What has happened over these 32 years while we place cities where we should not? We did that in Tijuana, Guanajuato, León. Like if we could just happily do it. We generated, I mean, Mexico, we have to redesign the country itself. I mean, Costa Rica, look at this, the GPS system that gives us 10 centimeters. This truck can navigate in real time without problem at all. But when we were there, let me tell you how dramatic this is. I mean, the sad thing is that cows are drowning or are dying of thirst. And every year we have the same problem, and we will keep on having this problem, because if you wanted to be in the middle of the road, I mean, put something for the houses and buy a boat instead of a car if you want to place your city over there. So, but what are we seeing? I mean, water is a problem? No, water is life for everything. I mean, the whole life is the result of the relationship between soil and water. But we need to do things slowly, not like the Yankees movies. Mexico is lucky enough. It's a big country. It's Mexico as a person is high or tall, big and wrinkled. If water that comes from the rain, if we, instead of draining it, would send it to Necaxa and maybe do some dumps that we would do, that we were doing 50, 60 years ago. But okay, for the World Bank, this is not modernity, so that's why they are not financing this type of projects. They don't give money for that. So these disasters have been created for us, and there is no easy solution for that. We are addicted to the money from the World Bank. I'm about to finish, don't worry about that. So, I was still naive at that time. 1999, there was a hurricane, and then I said, we need more detailed on the mapping. And so, we said, okay, the company grew, and we said, okay, well, let's do more detailed maps. And they said, well, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of work. And I said, okay, don't worry, we'll do it, and then we'll buy the license. And we did the maps of all the country. We have maps up to 5,000, 1,000, 5,000, and 10,000, but they are useless if you don't use them. So, finally, the problem weren't the maps. The problem is to have the map plus the cadastre. And let me just tell you that 8 years ago, we said, why did we fail? I mean, we wanted to use, to have a wise use of soil and water. We were believing, or we were dreaming, that the money was going to be used for something good. I mean, if the president wouldn't keep it in his pocket, we could use it on streets or paved streets that would really not need that. So we were actually facing the registries from the government. I mean, this country really needs that. We have some registry, but they are isolated. We don't know what the Yankees are doing on the north, if they are placing their walls in the frontiers in the right place. We don't know the railroads that we have, exactly where they are and where their conditions are, but we could. If we were working together, integrated cadastre and the public registry per state and municipalities. But before that, if we modify Article 115, but sometimes the municipalities don't want to work with the states, and everyone does whatever they want. I mean, so this is the situation of the data. So for instance, imagine how much money do we give away on 6 subsidies, 330 billion pesos. To whom? We have no idea. We give money for the farms, for the agriculture. In Coahuila, they sell the land, but they do not sell the subsidy. I mean, you can have my land, but you will never have the subsidy from the government. So technology, local technology, this is something that we want to develop, and all the data look like planets on the universe. They are not connected, but now we have some web services technology, so the problem is solved. I mean, we cannot, we have the technology for that. But maps, buses, business intelligence, cloud. I fell off the cloud I was walking on. What did we know at that time? We were looking for a solution, and the solution had to come from society, go through the municipality, go through the state, and reach the federal, state, or government. Everything at the same time, but sometimes our institutions are like an orchestra that are in 5 different stories without any partition. On the 5th floor, you'll see the piano, but the pianist hasn't arrived because he was on vacation, and the other one was drunk, and the other one was to play this song, and this other one wants to play another song, and so no one does anything. And it's so difficult to play the 5th, Beethoven's 5th, with this. The problem is that the map is not a problem, technology is not a problem, data, we need to clean them, we need to process them, we need to use our hands and do that. And you know, we had an employee at home, and Juanita had a sister that was Juanita, and they were the same, and then they registered Juanita, and how do you call your sister? Juana, and what is the last name? So actually they made a mistake, and they thought that one was Juanita and the other one was Juana, the same. I mean, in Puebla we have 40% of the people of the streets did not have a name. Now linked public registry with cadastres, so you're going to have to work a lot. You are going to use the science of data, you're going to clean your data, you're going to need to do workflows and processes. I mean, our company was called CIGMA, but actually it wasn't CIGMA. The key was in the processes, the government. So Engineer Morales and many people have worked for years, and we have more or less integrated the state of Morelos, the state of what Aguascalientes were still working on, but that's so complicated. I mean, it's just not technical reasons only why we're not able to do this. Sometimes there are some political reasons that hamper us to continue our work. In 1886, 150 years ago, we were speaking about this problem already. This is what I was telling you about the orchestra. We're looking for something that is in different levels. How can we coordinate everything like if we were all going to the same direction? It is a shame. I'm ashamed, but I'm going to just stand by it. Engineer Amaro, who already died, he was an engineer and a philosopher, asked me one day, do you know why this country is sinking? I said, I ignore. So, because stupidity is random. I mean, some come over here, and then you have some other stupidities coming from this way and that other direction, and etc. And it's hard to control them. This is how we are. Just summing up, 42 years of failure. El micrófono, por favor. Why did we fail? There should be a way, a reason. Let's study all these things. At the tech, they would say you have to study every day, and 1 hour before dying, you should still be studying. For what, professor? Because the last half hour before you die, you need to show whether you understand something or not. These are 42 years. I mean, 41 years got us to this place. This is the real story. Divisa 5C, it's very big, and it is an optimization platform of processes. Data. Data have to be clean, integrated, updated, precise, processable, etc., but they are useless unless you transfer them into relative information that is relative to processes. What processes to charge your taxes, to do urban planning, etc. I mean, you should not forget the processes. I mean, you need to know that. What do you want? Health, agriculture, so that people stop drinking Coca-Cola. I mean, a program of 55 billion to stop what is it doesn't work. I mean, the program is called nutrition, because if you're hungry, you eat chips and you eat Coca, and then you're okay. So hunger is a good thing because it can educate you sometimes. So validate information from data that goes through processes that can be qualified, measured, integrated, etc. All of that is useless if not all the actors visualize it. We want information from society. We want them to put their grain of salt in the right eye. We want it to be immersive, multi-thematic, transversal, and futuristic. Or, I mean, so far we don't have such a big problem. I mean, of course, we need to clean the data, etc. But we have the technology for that, and if we work hard, and if we train 2,400 municipalities, I mean, 12,000 people, we can do that. But this is where the problem comes, because we need collective intelligence, and that is the parameter that is hard to attain for human beings. My professor once said, if you want to achieve something, well, then you have to forget about the topological complex, which is, I say that first. I mean, it doesn't matter who say that first. I mean, you need to make a goal, you know? I mean, you need to attain the goal. You are the resource of the country. Stop drinking wine because you're going to kill all your neurons. And this is another problem. We need egoless intelligence. We need multiple emotional, intellectual, creative, free intelligence. I mean, ants are really good for collective intelligence, and termites as well are good for that. They are blind, but they are able to build all these. Look at that. So we're like blind people, but we're not able to build things like that. We just create cities that are going to flood in the future. And also we need synchronization. I mean, if I have to carry a big table on my own, I won't be able to do it. But if someone does help me, then we will be able to do that. I mean, social synchronization, solidarity, synchronization like an orchestra, and coordinated action aligned to processes. Nevertheless, even though we have this motto, we still need a collective vision of the future. How do we want to be? Do we want Costa Rica to keep on having or going through floods, or do we want everyone to have iPhone 6, or do we want children to be nourished? I mean, how do we want to be in the future? We weren't that ugly before. I mean, we were looking to reach somewhere, to a destination with a partner. I mean, we were educated that way. We don't know now if we're doing that with our children. But do we have a collective vision of the future? We need to accept that. We need to adapt our roles. We need to communicate. We need to commit, and we need to have this collective commitment, work together. So what is governance? Well, it is a process of decision making. The United Nations says that governance is the government, the leaders, the media, but we are also the ones that communicate. Government has to have a consensus participation and to respect the rule of law. Within the country, with the reforms that we have, we could optimize PEMEX, the production of energy. We would just need to see the general director, the CEO of PEMEX, of the Federal Commission of Electricity, etc., in the same table, not at a wedding, but at a working session. Rule of law, we need to respect because society needs to respect us, but we need to respect society. I mean, there is a failure of government. I mean, if they cheat, if there is embezzlement, etc., if the government gives away licenses to build in places where you should not, in swamps and stuff. I mean, so we do need good governance, but we need that for ourselves as well. I mean, we need to pay our taxes, and we need to have mechanisms this lack of governance from society, from the authority, leads us to this. When I came back from Zacatecas, I entered the university trying to study sociology because many things of society I would not understand. So I might have said, well, just go to university, try to find a girlfriend because I can't stand you anymore. And so Max Weber was saying that monopoly of violence is on the hands of the government. If the state says that someone is breaching the rights of the other, they can stop that person immediately, but you, for example, can stop an ambulance because otherwise people will die. That's something that no one can do. The biggest one of our mistakes is that we had railroads, millions of kilometers of railroads. The stupidest way in which you can spend your oil, if you have 1 barrel and you have it there, in order to extract them, you lose 12% of your energy. Then you take it to the refinery. So from 42 gallons, you just keep 19 gallons, and then you send it to the gas station. I mean, adding up, you lose between 2.5 and 5%. I mean, you need this 2.5 to 5% to move a car, and if it was an electrical car, you use half of it. So it's stupid to use oil for that. We should generate electricity. We should have trains and electrical cars. Why do we do that? Well, this happened because during the 50s, General Motors and Ford were condemned because that was a business over human being. And I want to be careful with the words I use, but we're speaking of crisis in Europe. We're speaking of Greece, Spain, Italy, Portugal, where the banks left the people without their houses and young people without employment. But in Mexico, we have this safety management crisis. Of course, we need a health management crisis. And now we have another one, which is the cholera crisis. I mean, on the first one that we had, drinkable water disappeared from the country. I mean, before I would drink water from the tap water, and now we need to buy water from Nestlé. we had crisis in the financial management. Now we're concerned that the government in the US has shut down on the ceiling and stuff. I mean, what do we care about? Well, we do care because we own the money. 173 companies that control the world economy. That's a study from the Zurich universities, not our study. These companies, corporations that are interconnected, and these could devaluate the Mexican peso today. They borrow then after Mexican pesos, and they make that the money go up or the rate go up, etc. And this is something that they are doing today. I belong to anonymous alcoholic. My boss said you should stop drinking, so I did go to the AA group, and there is a principle of lack of governance. They say that governance is a language that alcoholics are using in a similar way as politicians do. And life in Mexico has no governance. I mean, the people are not satisfied with all the problems that we have to face, and they are against the political systems that formulates and executes. They want a piece of cake. They want the cake to be distributed to satisfy or quench thirst and hunger. And this is from a newspaper in Honduras, but here the situation is like it's the same or worse, but there is hope. I have hope today. Still, nothing is impossible for a number of organized intelligence. We have roots, we have origins, we come from the Toltecs and the Olmecs and the Aztecs. We have roots. And Toltecs would work as an artist. The real artists work with its heart, with pleasure, with time. They create things, they fix things, they make it nice, they make them adapt. Just like Hansen and Takaki were working at our company, and just like them, there were many other people in Centenan, and there are people fighting outside in Pemex and in some other companies, CNA, for instance. So we need to create the Mexican Intelligence Agency urgently, just like he's saying. Are we out of time, Jaime? Well, we have a project in CIGSA that is called, If Mexico is Poor, at least make it nice. So these trees over here are called tabeyuyas, and we did a greenhouse and we give it to the children and we make them adopt them, because if we give them to the governor, he will sell them, some of them, the nicest one. And this is where we see the management of water. The field was like that, the land was like that, and well, I don't have the picture of how it turned out to be, but it's really, really nice. Thank you so much.
Bueno, yo agradezco.
I would like to thank both of the speakers for their very interesting presentations, and I would like to invite you to ask questions if you have any. We're running out of time, but if you have any questions, please send them to the speakers. So now I am going to thank the speakers for their presentations and give them an acknowledgement. Thank you very much.
Sí.